Welcome back to another episode of How Did They Grow? I created this podcast because I wanted you to learn how other coaches, freelancers, service providers, and course sellers are growing their business, landing 10 to 20 new clients every single month, paying them 50, 100, 200K months. See, if they've done it, you can too. And that's just the reality. And I want you to listen to these podcasts to understand what strategies are they using, what techniques are they exploring, because it's in these gems that you can apply it to your business and actually scale things up. When you're ready and you feel like you actually want to learn practical, proven methodologies, or even you want to hire a team that can build you a profitable personal brand, book in a chat with our team because we can guarantee you go viral and guarantee you get clients for your business.
Thank you so much, Ricky, for coming on this podcast. I truly appreciate your time. So I want to jump straight into it. I really want to understand a little bit more about your story for our listeners and for our viewers, and kind of how you got into where you are today as a youth mentor. And helping and assisting parents with children who are kind of resistant to showing up better.
Oh, yeah. Ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were going to keep going.
No.
All right. So how did I get into youth mentoring and coaching for teens and young adults? I learned everything I know the hard way. I was very thick-headed as a teen, young adult. Like, I went to college. I got kicked out of my first college. I ended up getting arrested. Like, I was into all kinds of, drugs, alcohol, partying. Basically, any mistake you could make as a teen, young adult in your younger years, like I made it multiple times. And then you hit rock bottom a few times. And if you're lucky, you wake up the first time. I wasn't lucky. So, I went through more stages of my life and more rock bottoms. And from basically 17 to 25, I was lost. So I ended up graduating from college around 22. 21, 22, I graduated. And then it was like, okay, great. I got a degree in psychology and sociology, but I don't want to go to school anymore. I only went to college because my parents were like, oh, you have to go to college. So I'm like, all right, well, you want to pay $13 an hour to take this social worker job? Like, that's nothing, and I had fallen for the promise of go to college, you get a job, and everything is going to be great and dandy, and you're going to have the American dream, all that. Well, it was not the case, and it's even less of the case now. So my buddy's father owned a construction company. He's like, hey, if you want to come work here, pay you what, $600 a week cash? I was like, sign me up. So then fast forward a few years, kept doing that. I was 25, still kind of messing around, but like on the outside, like it kind of looked like I had it halfway put together, but I was still living at home. Wasn't saving money, wasn't investing any money, didn't really have a life plan yet. My best friend had just got out of the service and was living in California, which is where I'm at now. And he was like, listen, you're not doing anything with your life there. You're 25 years old. You're still living at home. You got no plans. Why don't you just come out here, live with me? I will set you up with a job doing the same thing, making the same money. You meet new people and you get out of your parents' house. He's like, you got nothing to lose. So, when you're in that place of comfortability, you're like, I don't know. Finally, I'm like, I'm just going to do it. I'll take a shot. And that was 10 years ago in January. I've been out here. I came out, slept on a couch for 4 months. Tried to get clean at that point, and it was only smoking a little bit or here and there, like drinking or whatever. But everything else, it was all right, no more. Got a job, started making a little money, $15 an hour. Saved up enough money to lease the cheapest car you can get, so like a Nissan Altima or something. And just started my journey of personal development, which is really when I realized that nobody is coming to save me. And it was all on me. And for the longest time, I kind of put that off. And I don't know what I was thinking. Like, oh, yeah, I guess I thought that I was always going to have more time. And the time kept ticking and kept ticking, kept ticking. And I wasn't moving. I wasn't doing anything. And I'm very grateful that I had a good friend who was honest enough to call me out on my lack of ambition, of being an adult. So, fast forward a little, moved into a couple different places, kept advancing my skill set, got back into the gym, got healthy, started eating better, started, reading and watching videos on YouTube. And I really started getting involved in personal development. And I saw, my life got better. Started making more money. I got a raise, and then I got a better job, and then I got another raise, and then I started, meeting girls. And at the time, it was like, okay, that's what I want to do for so long, but I was such a loser that I didn't even have the game to go out and get girls. And then I got involved in a relationship, and we were together for a couple years, and then COVID happened, and I had just let go. Life is like a roller coaster, so there's those ups and downs. And for a while, my life went up, and then it kind of was stagnant, and I got back into the same habits. Like so many people that I talk to get into, like just drinking too much, and just instead of hitting the gym as often, I'm spend 4 hours playing video games instead, and just kind of let myself go a little, stop being the man that, my ex had fallen in love with at that point. And then COVID happened, and we were already butting heads, and it was it. We're like, you know what? Let's just break up. And we were engaged. And then at that point, it was like, okay, that's over. And I had put all my eggs in that basket. At that point, I realized a valuable life lesson. I had placed my happiness in someone else's hands rather than really being happy with who I was. I made that mistake of saying, I need this girl. This girl is the reason I'm happy. And then we split up, and I went off on my own. And that was 4 years ago, for almost 4.5 years ago now. It was at that point where my journey of personal development started to skyrocket. And that is because the power of solitude, I no longer had the distractions. I no longer had really any friends outside the coworkers I had at work. I would come home from work and watch YouTube videos and read books and create things. Like, my creative mind was awoken again. And I started thinking, like, okay, well, personal development has really changed my life in so many ways. Like, what can I be doing to like help people? And this is right around the time where I kind of discovered like coaching. Like, what the hell is coaching? Who's all these people on the internet doing coaching? What is that? So I kind of, did some research on them. Like I feel like I could do that. Like I like, my story is unique. Like, I've overcome huge challenges. Like, I consider myself pretty intelligent. I've been, helping anyone I could for as long as I could remember. And then it started to kick in. Well, what makes you qualified to do this? Like, why would someone give you money to help them?
Yeah.
So, and it was the truth. Like, why would they? Well, I think to myself, anytime I'm trying to sell something, I think, well, would I buy that? Would I buy that from me? So at the time, excuse me, I wouldn't have bought that for me. So I decided, you know what, let me hone my skills. Like, what kind of programs are out there? Of course, you could go online and get a certificate from all different kinds of places on coaching. And there's probably, more self-proclaimed coaches than, official coaches out there. But I decided to do it legit. Like, I went to graduate school. I'm like, well, you know what? Let me go back to school after all this time. And I went and got a master's degree in human service counseling and life coaching from Liberty University. After that, I started doing a little bit of coaching. but I was still working in my job, and I had a union job, a blue collar job as a laborer in general engineering. And I wasn't vested in my union yet. So I kind of put it on the back burner, and I'm like, I can't do this yet. I still got to work full time. And then it was 2022, about August, I would say, where one day I called up. I'm like, well, how much time do I have left till I'm vested in the union? And the woman was like, oh, well, you're actually, as of last week, you're already vested. And I was like, wow, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And I had that internal battle for so long going on that I know so many people can relate to. Of they are doing a job that they do not want to be doing. They feel deep down that they have so much more potential, but they don't know how to leave that job. They don't know how to find the courage to say, I'm not going to do this thing that I don't want to do for one more single day. It's very similar to addiction too, in my experience of, people might want to change their situation. Oftentimes they just don't know how. And the other side of it is, especially leaving a job, is financially. So I just made sure that, I had money saved. I had started investing, mostly cryptocurrency. And I realized, like, I can make it without this job. Like, yes, I'm not going to be accruing a pension any longer. My benefits are going to run out in a few months, but like, my life is still going to go on. Like, I am going to be okay. And, I called my best friend and I called my dad, and I was like, listen, I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave this job. And, to my surprise, like, both of them are like, you know what? After everything we've seen you do, like, they both said the same thing. They're like, we think you could do it. I think you're going to be all right. Like, you're going to pull it off. So, if you don't want to do this anymore, don't do it. Amazing. And that was it. And then 2 days later, I went to my boss. I was like, listen, I love you guys. I worked for a good company with good people. They did the right thing by me. They're very fair. So, I thank you guys for the opportunity. Like, and they're like, oh, where are you going? You going to another company? You want us to pay you more? We'll give you a raise. I'm like, listen, all honesty, like, even $10 an hour more, it's just not worth, not living my dream, not pursuing my passion. Like, worst case scenario, and this is what really led me to do this. Worst case scenario, if this life that I wanted to try out did not work, if this passion I wanted to pursue did not work out, what's the worst case scenario? You're just going to go back to that job that you already had. And in my situation, and most other people's situation, they're probably going to pay you more than when you left in the first place. So I was like, I really have nothing to lose, and that was it. And that was 2022. And that's really when I started, coaching people. Try to wrap this up real quick. With most of the clients I started to encounter at that time were middle age, in their 30s, around my age. Right now, I'm 35. And they had very similar problems. Like, I was into health and fitness when I first started. I was coaching more of like, wellness and fitness. And I realized that most of these people, their problems started when they were 8, 10 years old, or the lifestyle that they grew up with that was passed on to them by their family. Really, when you're a kid, you're not the one buying food at your house. When you grow up in a culture, you're not the one who decides what you eat and what you don't eat. Mm-hmm. So I realized, like, well, the problem is really starting in the youth, like a young age. So I went and got certified I was always into health and fitness. So I'm like, let me just get a personal trainer. I'll just go do that. Took it online. It took me like 6 hours to do. And then I did a nutritionist, and then I did an elite trainer, and like strength and conditioning. It was just easy to do. It kind of came natural. So I decided, like, you know what? I'm going to start a youth fitness business, because everywhere I went, I noticed there was no kids outside. Now, I'm in California, in America, and yeah, there's a couple kids running around. But when I grew up, you lived outside. And we're talking about a time where technology didn't really exist. It did, but on a basic level, like a cell phone was still, this
Yeah,
big.
yeah,
Video games were still like Nintendo, maybe Super Nintendo at that age. And TVs were, massive, and there was maybe one in a house. Kids were outside. I know I grew up, we were always outside. I was getting in trouble because I wouldn't come inside. And now kids are getting in trouble because they don't want to leave to go out. So I kind of noticed the pattern. I'm like, well, you see, obesity is through the roof in America, and particularly the diet, the food, the stuff that's pumped into food, the inactivity in children, the lack of, just physical fitness. I'm sure you've seen the things where they do comparisons of people you see on a beach, like the average person you see on a beach now in America compared to in the 70s. It just, the obesity culture is out of control. So I decided to start this company called Little Beast, and we do local youth fitness business, and we have a program. We run it a few times a week, and give them nutritional value. And really what I'm also focusing on is, developing growth mindset in them at a young age. And I say all the time, like, although on the outside it looks like we're doing youth fitness, really we're training them for life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's been the journey.
Amazing. There's so much I want to unpack there. So much.
I hope you're enjoying this podcast. I hope you're taking notes. I hope you're learning so much practical wisdom, because that's what I really wanted from this podcast. Now, I just want to quickly say, if you're looking for a team that can actually help you explode and go viral with your personal brand with proven methodologies, I say this because I've been doing this for the past 5 years. We've got a team of 30 people who are ready to go ahead and explode your brand so you can get clients begging to work with you. Have a chat with one of our advisors. You can book in a chat using one of the links around this video, because that chat might just change your life.
So I obviously want to make sure that our viewers and listeners are getting the most amount of value from this. So as a coach today, you are helping all these young people basically change their entire lives. What have been kind of the most common frameworks, strategies, wisdom pieces that you've kind of repeatedly given out that you feel that any parent could take away, or any young person listening to this could take away and apply to their lives?
Self-awareness is one, because without figuring out who you are, it's very hard to do anything beyond that. I always say that. So you have to first find yourself before you find anything else. And that's one of the things that every single client I coach, we are always going to be working on self-awareness as one of the primary starters. And I think after that, it goes to mindset, which is very closely related to a growth mindset, realizing if someone else did it, you can do it. And the skills you have now are not going to be the skills you have forever. And it takes a little bit of effort. The reality that, life is tough, and it is on you to make it what you want it. But also the secret, literally the secret, like the book and of the universe, that is in all of my favorite books, from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill to As a Man Thinketh by James Allen to, John Maxwell books, and everyone, all these people. The common factor is you are what you think about. You can be anything, and it's all the way back thousands of years into the Bible, and it's written in all of these, Stoics and the philosophers of back in the day. Absolutely. You can become anything you think about, and when you believe that and begin to learn how to feel that, like, I don't know if you know of Dr. Joe Dispenza, very big on that. Bruce Lee. When you can the mind-body connection, right? You're familiar with the mind-body connection, and that's it. When you can really lock in and say, I can have this, and you not only believe that, but the actions and habits you start to take on a daily basis now convince yourself, your subconscious, that that positive mindset that might have been a little bit of BS at first, where you were trying to talk yourself into being something that maybe deep down you felt that you weren't yet. Your track record starts to turn to from I'm not that person and I'm just trying to tell myself I am that person. But then a month in, 2 months in, 6 months in, you're consistently doing these positive actions on a daily basis. Slowly, that subconscious starts to believe that one day you realize you're like, maybe I am a little bit of that person. And then that level of self-doubt that was once so high starts to go down, and it starts to go down, starts to go down. It never goes away. Even the most successful people in the world encounter self-doubt sometimes. But the more you can look back on your track record and say, you know, I am this person. I am honorable to my word, to myself, to other people. I do the things that I say I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Once you get that down, I mean, the ball is rolling.
Amazing. Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I have a final question on this before we move on to the business side of things, because I know we're stuck for time, but you mentioned self-awareness, and that's like the key thing that you really want to, or one of the first things that you really want to build. How do you build self-awareness on a practical level?
Great question. Identify your strengths and weaknesses. It takes real brutal honesty, which most people right off the hip are really not able to do. You know, you walk around and most people have a very difficult time being honest with themselves about, you know, their deepest insecurities. Like, what am I not good at? You know, for myself, it was like, you have no self-control, bro. Like one of my biggest things is I didn't have self-control. So once you identify your strengths and weaknesses, there's actually a real good resource for free. The Wheel of Life will help you do this. There's free links online. Once you can identify where you actually stand, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, you start to realize, like, okay, this is stuff I need to work on then. And this is stuff that I'm probably in pretty good standing on, and maybe I do want to work on it, but it could kind of wait for now. So that's one of the benefits of self-awareness. Like we're saying though, to building self-confidence through identifying you know your personal achievements and skills. And like I was just saying, that the way you figure that out is by your track record of your actions in recent times. That's how, you know, how do you figure out how you identify within the world? You know, it's based on a little bit about some of what you believe about yourself, and then some of what you think other people perceive you as. So I think truth of who we are is somewhere in the middle of that.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. There's that quote, I am what I think you think I am. I don't know if you've heard it.
I did now.
I am what I think that you think that I am. Really powerful quote. I don't know who said it. I just remember hearing it and I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I want to move on to the business side. So you obviously now are coaching. Is this full-time now? The full-time coaching?
Yeah. And I've had other jobs, manage other companies on the side, kind of just, you know, half out for a little while. And just recently I was like, you know what, either I'm going to do this now or I'm never going to do this. So, and if it doesn't work, then oh well, but at least I know sooner than later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is it. Like having that kind of dream chasing mentality. It's like, I'm going to make it happen. And worst case scenario, I can always just go back to my normal life. Like the life I had before, you know, I went through a similar thing. Like I dropped out of university and decided to become a monk. And it was very much just like, I literally remember writing down what is the worst case scenario of me dropping out of university. And it was like, you just jump back into university a few years later. Like you take courses, you go to open universities, you go to, you know, night schools. Like there are so many things that you can do. And it's like, oh, wow, like our mind will kind of exaggerate the consequences. But when you write it out all out and you actually think about it, it's like, it's actually not that bad. And when you really, really think about it, you actually realize that staying in your current position is actually doing more damage than going out and chasing. So yeah, I can totally relate on that front. Regarding the business, so you obviously have a social media presence. You mentioned Opus Clips. So run me through, kind of, just for our listeners to be aware, like, what are you currently doing on social media and how is that helping you kind of grow your business?
What a journey. What a journey it's been. I posted content. I remember, let's say probably 18 months ago, I was involved in a course with like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, and like mastermind.com. And they're teaching, hey, go out there, just make a video. And I was like, super squeamish of like, make a video and like put it out there for like the world to see. Like you wouldn't catch me dead on a podcast that, thousands of people are going to watch. But then you just do it, and then I kept hearing him say, like, the first one you make is not going to be good. Either it's the second one or the third one. And then I heard Hermosi say this again and again also, like, you think I was good at making content when I first started? Like, and then you think that nobody is good at anything when they first start. It's only through, persistent effort and resilience that you get good at something. So, I started making content. It was not good. A couple people watched it, maybe my family. And you just keep going. But every once in a while, when I wanted to quit, I would get a random message from somebody saying, hey, I've been watching your videos and like what you're doing is good. What you're saying is true. Don't quit. And like, it was always at the time where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this is a waste of time. I'm not making money doing this. It takes so much time. I got to edit it and make the videos and like, and every single time I was going to quit, I get a random message, someone I haven't talked to in years, someone I didn't even know followed me, a complete stranger sometimes would say, hey, I really like, the videos you're making. So what I do want to tell people is the likes and comments on your videos are not always a direct indicator of how many people are actually seeing your content. And you think about this on for myself, when I'm scrolling, Instagram, for example, if you don't click on the video or to watch the video and the subtitles just play automatically, it's not really, you would know better than me. Is that even counting as a view?
If they watch more than 3 seconds, but you wouldn't have much insight into these types of people, basically. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Like, you don't know who's basically coming across your content and taking away any value from it because it's not showing as likes or comments or anything like that.
And then post, like, if you put a post up, if I put a picture and it has a really great caption, like I put one up today, and I had, really detailed caption, it took me a lot, and like I'm vulnerable in it. I'm like, and it's motivational. If you don't click on this and someone scrolls, like, you could open the caption and is it registering that someone's even reading, on the screen? How do they even know you're looking at it? I don't know. You would know though.
Yeah. So it registers as an impression, but it won't register as an engagement, basically. So you won't get a like or comment from it. So unless you're sitting down and diving into the analytics, you have no real insight into whether it's being spotted. But remember, like, what you're saying is exactly that. Like, people are taking away value and you don't even know, because until they like or comment, you're not really seeing it. You could also have someone viewing your post in a room full of 4 other people because they're all just sitting down and having dinner and talking about your post, but it's registering as one impression.
Yeah.
Not even a like or comment because they've not got around to liking or commenting. So it's like, you really don't know the impact that you're creating. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So odds are, whatever those numbers do say, it's probably more than that, at least.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, so anyway, with that, so I got a little more comfortable making content. I get a little bit of positive boost here and there. And then, I started pushing my coaching a little bit. At first it was just make content and, no call to action and no real like plan to get clients at all. And then really when I got my first client, I still didn't have a plan of how to get a client. You know what? Someone I hadn't talked to in a long time and hit me up and like, hey, like, you think you could coach me on, XYZ? And I was like, yeah, I can actually. Didn't have pricing set up, didn't have system set up, because I was kind of just riding the wave, like making content without a game plan, which is, really not a good thing to be doing. I'm going to tell you that if you're watching this, it's the same thing in life. If you don't have a plan ready, Earl Nightingale talks about this in Strangest Secret. If you don't have a plan, where are you going to go? Like you're a ship without a charted course. You're not going to go anywhere. And that's really what I was doing, making content with no idea of what I was going to do when someone actually hit me up and said, yeah, I'm kind of interested.
Absolutely.
So, time went on and I started making more videos and got a little more comfortable. And then I came across, school.com, and I decided, you know what, this is a good place. It's user friendly. This is good for me to make a community. So I created a community called the Academy of Adulting, and it's mostly teens, young adults, and some proactive parents as well who want to learn, strategies to teach their kids. And I started with that. Well, in school, one of the main parts in there is building a course, and I had that on the back burner for so long. Yeah, I'm going to build a course and I'm going to sell my course, just like, 100,000 other people out there that never do it. And I'm one of those people. And finally, I'm like, no, like I put it down on a calendar. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And this is what it's going to be. And you draw it out, I write it out on paper or whatnot. And, you could use ChatGPT to kind of gather your thoughts or expand upon them. And then I edit it up and I'm like, okay, well, this is what I want to talk about. And then, I got a whiteboard. You can see my whiteboard behind me. And I just write it out. I write out the key points on there, like, hey, this is what I want to talk about. And, and you start making, and that's going to be long form. So those videos are generally, around 20 minutes. And then this is how I came across Opus. I was kind of looking, I'm like, well, how is everyone, I had seen different profiles with like the same kind of background and the same shirt being worn. And I'm like, yo, this is from the same video that I saw. Like, how are they doing this? How is there 15 of these videos and I know it came from the same one. And I went on to school and, there's a ton of creators on there and they're like, yo, it's from Opus, Opus Pro or Opus Clip. I'm like, all right, let's check it out. And that's what I did. I just went, I'm a lot like you, you said you like to learn, like I like to learn too. And it was like, okay, maybe this is going to take me a couple days to figure out, but it's like, it's a couple days, whatever. And I always suggest, like, if you really want to learn something, don't be in a rushed environment. Every time that I've been like, oh, I really need to figure this out right now. You don't have the time to really navigate, especially software of any kind. Like, and I went through that with Canva and CapCut.
I think that's a rule in life, to be honest, like business, social media, everything, because if you're rushing, by default of rushing, you are naturally not going to make the same decisions or think in the same way as if you had time. And generally speaking, if you have more time, you can think better, you can perform better, you can make better decisions. So by default, by rushing, you are literally making bad decisions. And so naturally, you're always going to create worse outcomes if you're rushed than if you have the time. So we even say to our clients and our students, like when you're trying to grow a social media presence, if you're trying to go like, oh, I need to go viral in the next month, the chances of you going viral dramatically diminish because you're already going to make the wrong decisions than if you had the kind of 6-month runway, because having that time, you're going to make the right decisions, lay the right foundations, which will then lead you to go viral. Same in business. I need to make 10K by Thursday. You're going to make all the wrong decisions. You're probably going to get scammed. I went through that. I got scammed. So it's like, but then if you're thinking, okay, I need to make 10K by the end of the year. Okay, cool. Now you're going to lay all the right foundations, make the right decisions. So I think to be honest, that's just a rule of life.
I think it has to do too with, vibration, right? Like when you're in that stressed and anxiety vibration, like it's just like the universe just does not align with that. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you're successful in the short term, but like long term, no.
Doesn't, yeah, it won't last. Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Opus Clips, I mean, we advise against it all the time. The reason we're against it is just because when you're clipping up from a long form piece of content, you're basically relying on what has been said in that piece of content. And there's no guarantee of if that topic has virality behind it, if it's backed by research on whether it's going to perform or anything like that. So you're literally it's kind of potluck at that point on whether, like, if that clip that's been clipped has virality behind it. Whereas our approach is start with what you know is going to go viral, record a video around that, then edit that up. And then the chances of you reaching an audience are dramatically higher. You know, so it's like kind of reversing it as opposed to trying to do a lot of see, I get why people think this way. It's because they're looking at all the big creators, you know, Joe Dispenza, Jay Shetty, all these massive creators where there's podcast clippings of them that are going viral. So they think, well, if I clip up a podcast or I clip up a long form piece of content, mine will go viral. But they don't realize that those clippings, firstly, you're clipping from a big creator. So already when we mention about the hook, people are being hooked in anyway because they're seeing that creator. Yeah. And they're willing to listen to the end because it's that creator. So it's this thing that we teach called idolization factor. When you have enough of an audience, you start to create an idolization factor, it increases. And so now, like, if Alex Hormozi, whatever video he talks about, whatever topic he talks about, there's a high chance you're going to watch it. And there's a high chance you're going to watch it till the end, which which means he's going to go viral almost every time because there's idolization behind that. But for new creators, there's no idolization. So what you basically got to do is you've got to be more strategic with the content you're creating. So you want to almost kind of throw targeted shots at the wall, high chances of success, build an audience that way. Then your idolization factor increases, and then you can talk about whatever you want and do podcast clippings and do all this other stuff. Does that make sense?
Now, do you guys suggest like my niche, right? My niche is, you know, youth, really adulting. Like I help young adults learn how to become successful adults, you know, or how to gain real world success. Now, one thing I've done in the past, which I know is wrong, is like just make generalized content, and it could be on this topic or this topic or this topic, right? And it doesn't. For me, my ultimate goal is to get clients and actually help people. Yes, I like making videos that people could get free knowledge from, but you're not really learning that knowledge. You're being entertained by that video. My real goal is to get clients and really show them how to do it. So by making just generalized content on a whole bunch of different areas, I was doing myself and the people I'm trying to help a disservice. So now I've gotten to, I don't want to talk about anything that is not relatable to my target audience.
That's honestly very wise, and that's what we recommend to everyone. Like, the last thing you want to do is build an audience that doesn't even understand kind of your services or products, right? So you want to build an audience that relates to what you're offering. And so you want to basically choose the most viral topics that relate to your audience. So if in your case, for example, you know, you're teaching children how to show up better in the world, you're teaching parents how to help their children show up better in the world. So you should be finding and understanding and doing all the research behind knowing which topics within that are going to go viral. Like, I can't tell you off the bat until I've done research, but it could be, for example, things like increasing confidence in young men, for example, right? That would be a topic to speak on. Now, whether that's going viral or not will be based on your research. And there's a whole research process that we implement for our clients and our students. So yeah, I would start there, just knowing kind of what is already going to work for your audience. The thing is this, if that topic has gone viral, say, for example, what we just spoke about, right? Increasing confidence in young men. What that's showing you is millions of people, millions of young men clearly want to learn more about that. So that gives you insight that not only if by creating this content am I helping more people, I'm reaching more of an audience, but it also means that there's potential in this being incorporated in my services at some point, because clearly there's a need for it, because the data is showing that millions of people want to be listening to this, you know? So it's almost kind of reversing it. instead of thinking like, what do I want to talk about, or what does one of my followers want to, get an answer to? It's like looking at the data and going, well, millions of people clearly want an answer to this. Let me focus on that, And
you guys, and you said your students, like are you going to be dropping that kind of stuff in your school community?
So right now we have a course, the Viral Lead Accelerator course. So the Viral Lead Accelerator course is very much around how can you build an audience and how can you start making 5 to 10K a month from that audience minimum. And so that's learning how to create viral content, how to create a content strategy that will also encourage more people to DM you. So you want to do a mix of viral content and conversion content. These are two types of content. Viral content brings views. Conversion content brings leads. So there's 2 different types of content. When conversion content brings leads, that means more people are messaging you in the DMs saying, I want help, the same way that first person did that, right? And so the Viral Lead Accelerator course basically covers that entire process. The school community is very much where we drop kind of, at the moment, what we're doing is we're dropping viral real ideas. So kind of hooks that you can use every day, dropping trending audios that you can leverage, and ChatGPT prompts that you can also use for content dating. So it's very much, I'd say the school community is more for like starters. The Viral Lead Accelerator is more for like people who have a couple clients and want to accelerate building an audience, and they're already making content, but it's not doing anything for them basically. So they need the right expertise, they need the right strategy. And then people working with us are those where it's just like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. In order for me to scale, I need to offload my time so that I can focus on more revenue generating activities. And that's how you grow a business, right? Like I hired an ops director because I cannot be in operations. I need to be focusing more on the vision, right? That's the job of an entrepreneur and a business owner. And then, those end up working with us for that reason, for a time reason. So it just depends where you're at, basically. Yeah. Right. I think that pretty much wraps up our time. We're over time, but it's okay. I was really invested in the conversation, to be honest. So I appreciate you, Ricky. How can anyone get in touch with you if they do want to learn more about kind of your services and your programs? Best
spot to find me is on Instagram. Probably if you're watching this, pretty much on all social medias at Ricky Carilli, RICKYCARILLI. Pretty much all social medias, that's going to be my handle.
Perfect. Amazing. The link will also be dropped where this video is going to be uploaded. So you can also drop in on that link. I appreciate you, Ricky. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm just, I've learned so much from this. Your story is incredible. And I genuinely look forward to seeing you just fly with this, to be honest, because I think more people need to hear your story.
Appreciate it, bro. Good to connect and look forward to it again in the future.
Amazing.
I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. I want you to go away and execute everything there is that you've learned. Now, one thing I will say is if you're in a position where you're ready to actually take things to another level, you want structured, clear guidance, you want a team that can actually help accelerate you, book in a chat with our advisors. Why? We can blow up your personal brand to attract clients begging to work with you. All you got to do is book in a chat with our advisors and we can help make it happen. Sound fair enough?